Welcome to Bedtime Stories. The Queen of Fairies. Long ago at the top a hill a farmer grazed his cattle. The land was lush and green, and the cattle grazed contentedly. One night, as the farmer sat beneath the faint starlight and the cattle lazed peacefully in the thick grass, a horse-like creature with flaming wings and a dragon's tail suddenly appeared in the sky. Before the farmer saw the creature, he heard a wild flapping of wings. When he looked up, his eyes nearly popped, for there was such a creature he had never seen, hissing and shooting fire from its nostrils. Quaking with fear, the farmer could not move. He sat and stared, and as he did, the creature transformed itself into a massive, hideous hyena with enormous claws and horns. "What do you want?" the farmer wailed. But before the words had left his mouth, the creature once again transformed, this time into a gigantic ape with webbed feet and a wide peacock's tail. The creature roared and bellowed and screamed and howled. The farmer, terrified beyond imagining, covered his head with his blanket. This did him no good, of course, for the creature was the Queen of Fairies. The fairies lived upon this hill, and they had grown weary of the farmer and his lowing cattle. They begged their queen to scare him away. The fairy queen took one deep breath and blew, off the blanket flew. The poor farmer began to quake, but he could not move or close his eyes. Paralyzed with fear, he stared as the cattle began to run wildly about the hill, kicking up their legs. They ran and did not stop until the sun rose and the creature vanished in the light. The next day the farmer, too afraid to return to the hill, hired a man to be his herdsman. The herdsman knew nothing of the fairies, and so he climbed the hill, happy for this pleasant job. But that night, as the herdsman sat upon the hill, a huge lion appeared, with huge talons. The herdsman screamed, and the cattle, once more terrified, began to run again. In their fright, some raced downhill and tumbled into the river, and some lay upon the ground, afraid to move. The herdsman quit that night. The next night another man took his place, but once again the fairy queen, in hideous disguise, scared the man out of his wits. The farmer, desperate to use his land, hired one man after another, but each one quit after one night on the hill, and soon the word spread. The farmer could find no one to look after his dwindling herd. He gave up and left that hill to the fairies. Happy to have their home again, the fairies spent their nights singing and dancing, sipping dew from acorn cups, spreading out their feasts on the mushroom caps, climbing the lily stalks, and donning bluebells on their heads. Now in that country there lived a brave fellow who claimed to be afraid of nothing. "I play the pipes," said that brave man, "better than anyone alive. And nothing in the world scares me." Now the farmer heard the braggart's words and said, "I'll pay you well to look after my herd if you'll take them to the hill over yonder. But be warned, the fairies live there." "Well," said the man, "I'm certainly afraid of no fairies," and so he set off to the hilltop that very night. As soon as the man began to play his pipes, he could feel the fairies brushing past him. A moment later an enormous black cat standing came to him. The cat mewed in a voice so shrill and loud, it sounded like 1,000 cats mewing at once. But the man just grinned and said, "So you'd like to dance, would you? I'll play my pipes for you." And so he did. With that, the fairy queen transformed herself again, and this time into a beautiful fairy with mild eyes. She moved to the man's side and brushed against him. She was trying to fool him, and of course, scared him, but the man was no fool. He went on playing his pipes with such melodious songs for the fairy, and the Queen of Fairies could not resist and began to dance to his tunes. The amazed Queen of Fairies danced the whole night. "You are a bold young man," she said, "and sure you have a great gift of playing pipe. Will you have the nerve to return to the hills every night?" asked the Queen of Fairies. Happy to, the man answered. You have shown great courage and good spirit, the fairy queen said, that I will promise you that while you keep a herd upon this hill, you will not be harmed. At dawn you must tell the farmer that it is you and only you alone who will be permitted to graze his cattle on this land. And if I can ever help you, just ask me. She then vanished in a blink of an eye. The man passed the message to the farmer, and from that day on it was he alone who looked after the farmer's cattle. He ate and drank at the farmer's table, and the farmer paid him well. One night the man did not go up the hills to graze the herd. The Queen of Fairies waited all night for his return and got sad. Then before dawn they went down to the village and saw the man who played the pipe was lying on the bed as he was not keeping well. Seeing the Queen of Fairies by his bed he was astonished. The Queen of Fairies understood why the man did not make it to the hills. She at once sprinkled some dewdrops on the man's face. With this the man was up and fresh like a new being. All his life the man again started to the hilltop and play melodious songs for the fairies, and he never asked the fairy queen for a thing. He was happy on the hilltop with playing his pipes. If you like the story, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you for listening. Good night.